He is a regular speaker and performer at universities, conferences, and demonstrations across the country. And we actually have him here today at our university. So if I could just welcome up Brother Cyrus McGoldrick.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Alright. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. My dear sisters and brothers, Muslims, believers, inshallah, people of other faiths, you are all welcome. It is my pleasure and my honor to be here, and I want to thank you for having me. And if you're not, actually, who here is Muslim? Just show of hands, maybe. Got to testify like 5 times a day, guys. Anyone here does not identify as a Muslim? That's more than welcome. Inshallah, beautiful. That's great. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are here. It's really important. You know, this is a time of community. Now, I have a tough job because I'm supposed to talk and you guys are supposed to listen, but the food's already here. So that's a challenge. I'm going to try to keep my remarks brief. I also don't want to shortchange my gracious host here. And so, inshallah, I just had a couple thoughts about the holiday which we are celebrating like 3 weeks later, and the community that we have here to celebrate it. Eid al-Adha, the holiday of sacrifice, it's a beautiful time, it's an important time, it's one of our 2 holidays of the year. Now some of us, I know some people still celebrate a lot of other holidays, but as Muslims we have 2. And Eid al-Adha, like all celebrations, is a time that brings us together. Our celebrations, like many of our rituals, you saw that we prayed together. Today was Friday, or we just saw the end of Friday, so we all go to the masjid together and we pray together. Much of Islam, and I think this separates it from other paths, is that it is supremely focused on community. Islam is absolutely focused on the community, on social cohesion. How do we make our society run better? How do we liberate ourselves as individuals, as bodies, as minds, as souls, but also as communities, as nations around the world? And on this Eid in particular, in which we commemorate the willingness of the Prophet Abraham, to sacrifice what he thought was his son, what he thought was required of him. When we celebrate this willingness, we're not just celebrating for the sake of celebrating, we're celebrating the togetherness itself. You see, it's kind of hard for, I think, a lot of us to understand in 2013. Does anyone have kids here? You guys in college, you better not, so just checking. I think it would be hard for anyone, though, with a close family, to imagine what that would be like to take a life. I hope that would be hard for anyone here killed anybody? Nobody? Fifth Amendment. Fifth Amendment, yeah, that's right. Gareth got the hook. It's hard to imagine what that's like. When we talk about the story of Ibrahim, I think that's difficult for many of us to understand. And so it depends for us to think about this story. For us to understand what that means, we have to also understand the relationship, the personal relationship that Ibrahim had with his Lord, with our Lord. See, this was Khalilullah, right? Friend of God. You know, he didn't just have a special relationship to all of the other prophets, which we believe in and honor. He was Abul Anbiya, right? He was the father of the prophets. But at the same time, he had a personal, discursive relationship with God. If any of you guys, just to make it personal, I know people like, how could... I don't know, the Jews and Christians, they believe that it was his other son. But I know we think, what could bring this man to do it? I'll tell you very clearly that if you hear any voices that tell you to kill your children, that's not God. That's over. That period, that's done. There's no more of Allah speaking to you. If you guys hear voices, you should get help. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but that's what I heard. But we have to understand that this personal relationship was so close that he knew that his iman, what was the first verse that we heard? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah. To have taqwa, have a consciousness, and always presence, a consciousness of God. Sometimes it's translated as fear of God. A little fear is healthy. It's good to have a little bit of fear. But it's love, it's a consciousness, it's an awareness of that presence. Ihsan, that concept of ihsan, excellence. As Jibreel alayhi salam has our Prophet alayhi salam teach us. It is to worship God as if you can see Him. Because even if you cannot see Him, He can truly see you. And so in thinking about this prophetic relationship, I wanted to think about how that's relevant to us. We talk a lot about the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the peace and blessings of God be upon him. And we also believe that he is the seal of prophethood, that his prophecy marks the end of the period of revelation, that his message is complete in such a way that we don't need more after it, that the principles embodied therein still apply to us today. They still hold our community together. When you look around the room, the fact that we're here still, that we are here today celebrating is something special. It's not something you see in many communities, I can tell you that. And so, as we learn about the Prophet ﷺ, we also have to honor the example of Ibrahim. And when we think about this, I want to take it back a step further to how this relationship began. Many of us, we're called young in our Islam. Almost all of us are. Even if you were born, others had you born Muslim, if you were raised Muslim, if you're not a convert, and some of us accepted Islam later in our lives, but even if you are not a convert to Islam, you have still made the conscious decision. You made a conscious intention to be a Muslim still. Right? No one forced you to be here, I don't think. I hope not. When you pray, if you're by yourself, you're alone in your room, and you pray, no one else can see you except God. No one made you do that. You didn't have your mom behind you like about to smack you if you don't pray on time. That helps, right? That's how you develop a discipline. But you chose at that moment, you converted, or reverted perhaps, to Islam in that moment. When you're fasting during Ramadan. I hope that we do that. I won't ask for shows of hands. We'll play the Fifth Amendment for the rest of this. If you fasted during Ramadan, you were alone. You could have had a sip of water. Just one. It's a little sip. No big deal. But you kept the fast because you knew that not only could God see you, but you hoped for the reward for pursuing that action. That's belief. That's faith. And so even sometimes we separate this and we fetishize converts. We have like convert panels. I've done so many panels with these two brothers up here, Gareth and Hamza. I swear, everyone wants to hear about how we converted. People expect like miracles and stuff lighting on fire and dramatic signs. People love this. And why? Why is it that you want to hear a convert story so badly? I don't know. Maybe it's you talk about the Iman rush. Maybe it's an external validation of our faith. When we see someone who wasn't raised to be Muslim accept Islam, like, wow, it does make sense. It made sense to that person. Right? Maybe. This is a theory. It's important that we understand ourselves all as converts, as reverts to Islam. It humanizes our experience. And you remember the mercy of God that brought you to this room today. Mercy of God. Fear is fine, but count also and hope for His mercy. And we pray for that all the time. Allah grants us His mercy. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was a convert as well. Abraham, this talk is mostly in English, so I might switch back and forth. Ibrahim, his father's people were idolaters. They practiced idolatry. They worshipped idols. Right? Just a little grammar for you guys. His father's people worshipped idols. They built statues, right? And then prayed to them as if they had some power over them. They asked these statues for things. This is a common practice. And in some parts of the world, this continues today. There are still people who worship statues. And Ibrahim, he grew dissatisfied with this. He felt that there was something wrong with this. And the Quran talks a lot about Ibrahim. It talks a lot about different chapters in his life. It's beautiful to see. And at one point in his life, after he had come to the understanding that these statues had no power over him, and he came to understand the oneness of God, that there was one source of creation, that there is one power, that any other power is only by His grace. He decided to take action. He was a punk. Ibrahim was a radical. His people left town for a celebration, and he went to the temple. Some of these accounts put him maybe a teenager, right? And he goes to the temple where these statues are all held. He breaks them, smashes them, cuts them down. Except for one, the biggest one that's in the temple, the axe that he used, the tool that he used to break these idols, he hangs it around the neck of the biggest idol. And so when the people come back and they ask who destroyed our idols, and another group of people says, well, we heard this boy Ibrahim talking trash about the idols. Let's ask him. And he says, ask the biggest one. So I didn't do it. Ask the biggest one what happened. He might know. And they say, what are you, crazy? You know these things can't talk. And yes, so how do you worship something that cannot help themselves? He destroyed property of vandalism. I'm just putting it in modern day terms, right? That was vandalism. He'd probably be prosecuted for that. Maybe do a couple weeks in jail for destroying all those idols. Yeah, exactly. It was a statement. It was a message. And when we look at this, I want us to understand, the point of all this, to understand the prophetic practice, which we all strive to, right? We talk a lot about the Sunnah. We want to follow the traditions of the Prophet of Islam. The prophetic practice is a transgressive act. Transgression. What does transgression mean? It is a violation, in a way, against the status quo that exists. If everything was good, people wouldn't have needed prophets, right? The prophets were sent to those people who needed them. And we all need them, and so that's why we still have the example, by Allah's grace, that we still have the tremendous intellectual project, which is the Quran and the Sunnah, the Islamic sciences. And so when we see ourselves today, and we live in a time of idolatry, even if you don't, all of us are guilty in a way, even if you don't bow down to statues. There are many things that we worship. We worship social status. We worship power. We worship governmental power. We worship gains, material gains. Allah says, "Al-hakum takathur, hatta zurtumul maqabir." Competing for more distracts you until you go to your graves. We have to understand our role as Muslims or as people of faith. Remember, our movement, Islam is a movement. It's not a hobby. Islam isn't a club that you're a member of. Islam is a movement that requires things of you. But it's a movement that has to be inclusive. Uncompromising, but inclusive. This needs to be a space where people feel comfortable being, and where hopefully you recognize some of the ethics that we're calling people to, if we're calling at all. If you think that you have something in the Quran, and I hope that you do, and if you think that you have something in the example of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you do, then it's something that we share. Islam is not the religion of the masajid, of the mosques. It's a religion of the world. Something that we invite people to. Dawah, what does dawah mean? An invitation, a call. In Farsi, and I understand in Urdu as well, a dawah is actually a party, right? So you're doing dawah, you're inviting people to a party. Some of my brothers might be offended, but Islam in America is a whack party. Is this a party that people would want to come? Well, not this one particular. This is a cool party. You guys seem nice. Although we haven't eaten yet. Like, why is this guy talking? We don't eat at these Muslim parties. It is something, though, that when we invite people and we call people to it, we are offering something better. It's something that we live through example. They're radical ideas. Islam is a radical religion. Yeah, I said it. I'm on tape too, right? Yeah, I'm on the camera. It's going to go online. Robert Spencer's going to write a blog about it. He's going to say, Cyrus McGoldrick admits that Islam is a radical religion 3 times in the same talk.
And I'm going to write back. You mad, bro?
Yeah, you mad. They're mad because they know it's radical. What does radical mean? Don't even start. What does radical mean? Huh? Crazy. Someone said crazy. What else does it mean? Huh? Change? Yeah, actually, that's a good start. What does radical mean? Man, I knew you were going to start. Garrett said to get to the root of something. That's what it means, right? You guys, anybody study math? Did anybody make it through algebra? You do a radical. I didn't make it. I made it to like algebra 1, but a radical is you get to the root of something. And so if you're thinking radically, you're not just treating the symptoms, you're treating the disease. I assume half of you guys are pre-med? Thanks, RC. So you gotta know your audience. It would be stupid, right, to just treat these symptoms to make you like kind of look better when inside you're dying. And if you get to the disease, that's thinking radically, right? You root out the problem. That is Islam. And so when they try to make us seem like bad people, and they say they're radicals, or when they identify people who do bad things and say they are radicals, they are criminalizing the act of justice. Why would they do that, right? NYPD has this report out, what was it called again? Radicalization in the West. I used to talk a lot more about this and just kind of got tired of it. Why would they make it seem like it's a bad thing for us to be radicals, right? And they call radical Muslims this, and they've even convinced you guys, right? And you go out and you say that I'm not a radical Muslim, I'm a moderate Muslim. The hell does that mean? What are you moderate about? And why would you be proud of that? Are you moderate in your Islam? What does that really mean? Think about that. And when you say that to someone, usually to white people, what does that mean? No, I'm safe. You don't have to worry about me, bro. I'm moderate. I only pray 4 times. But really, I ask you to think, to look inside. And we've all been on it's a difficult journey. I'll be honest. There's a lot of pressure on you, and the NYPD isn't even half of it. There is pressure on you to conform to a status quo, which is a status quo of war. It is a war. There's a war going on. I know it's not right here, but down in Brownsville it is. And across, you don't even have to look overseas to find a war. and they give us the appearance of peace. Right? We seem comfortable, everyone's good, I'm wearing a nice jacket, we feel like we're fine. And they've done that by exporting violence, either across the street, or across the city, or to the suburbs, or across the border. To give us this delusion that everything's cool. We're having a good time, it's fun. I can just go about my life, right? I don't have to worry about these things. They make you feel that it's beyond your influence. Even though this is your government and our government, right? Which is the primary perpetrator of that violence. The primary exporter of war. This is the status quo which we were born into. This is why we still so desperately need Islam. And this is why we so urgently need a radical vision of who we are and what our role here is as human beings. I hope that when you leave this talk, when you leave this event, hope you guys make some friends. Hope you guys eat some good food. Hope you guys learn some things, but more than anything, I hope you walk out of here with some energy. We're talking a lot today about community. Community's tough. I mean, you guys all seem like lovely people, but it's tough to spend a lot of time together. Our community's like a family. We don't like all of our family members. Some of our family members are weird. Some of our family members do us dirty. Absolutely. But our family has rights over us. And you have rights over them. And even if there is a discomfort, even if there is sometimes a certain lack of trust on an individual basis, hopefully there is a love that underlies it which keeps us together. Sometimes I know I come off as angry. At least that's what I hear. I don't feel angry, but I'm told I'm angry. At least on Facebook. And sometimes I might seem sad, disappointed, upset. I am. But that's only because I deeply and unconditionally love each and every single one of you. For the sake of God, I do. I want better for us. And not just Muslims, I don't say us as like Muslims. Us as human beings. Us as a world. I know that we can do better. I know that we can do better than this. Are you serious? We just shut down the government for like 3 weeks because some people would rather spend money killing people than keeping them alive. That's basically what it comes down to, right? Now, I didn't vote for Obama, but the idea, there's a deep-rooted philosophy in this country that our money, the money that you and I, well, I don't know if you guys pay taxes yet, probably not. But I paid some taxes. And those taxes went into killing people. Did that surprise anybody here? We see it on the headlines and then we turn the page. We can do better than this. There is an alternative to this, and it's radical. It will require a dramatic change of power. What did Frederick Douglass say? He said it much better than I will. I'll paraphrase that. Power concedes nothing without struggle. You don't just wait for people to give you what's yours. What did Malcolm say? If you're a man, you take it.
Ballot or the bullet.
By the ballot or the bullet. If your votes don't count, then I'm going to throw some hadith together, you change it with your hand. Is that an irresponsible combination of phrases? The mission that we have, it's important, it's urgent, and I hope that we take it seriously. This is the entire purpose of my time with you today. Our celebrations are times for us to re-energize, to build the relationships that drive us forward. It's out of love for my family, and out of love for my community, and out of love for the communities which I don't even know, that we work, that we act. You know, activism isn't a career. And some people make it one, and it's not a very good one. But it's a mode of being in the world. Resistance, liberation, is a mode of being which depends on a goal. And so I want to leave you with a question. Something to think about. And write it down, actually. I don't see any paper out here, but write it down on your phone, something to think about. Yeah. Inshallah, everyone's technologically equipped. And revisit this regularly. This is an exercise I do with myself. I'm not just, I practice what I preach here. This is something very important for your sanity. Think about when you die, and you will. Not like right now, I hope. That would be awkward. But when you die, how do you want the world to look? See some eyebrows. What? How do you want the world to look when you leave it? What is your ideal? What is your goal? Do you want to just slightly reform, just slightly touch up the way things are? It's like, no, I don't mind if Obama kills people, just not with drones. Like, you know, I don't mind if you spy on Muslims, just not me. Do you want to reform the way things are? Like, I don't want you to go to war with us, just go to war with North Korea. Like, is that the world that we envision? It's like, just not us, please. Just don't oppress us, oppress somebody else. I hope that when we think about it, that's not actually our goal. Sometimes that's what we fall into when we don't keep sight of that goal. We find that we are willing to identify with the oppressor as long as we're not the oppressed. And so I stand by the fact that Allah blessed us. It is a blessing from God that we are on this end of the beatdown. Maybe God would have made you oppressors. Maybe you are oppressors. Maybe I am. We find it, we weed it out. This is our tazkiyah, this is our purification of the soul. And as we purify ourselves, we purify our society. And I hope that as we work, as we renew our intentions, as we make those conscious decisions, and we make more of our decisions conscious decisions, with a niyyah, with an intention. Like the sister said, for the sake of Allah. We do it with a goal in mind, which is an ethical, it is a moral, it is a just and dignified organization of our society. I want to thank you guys for bearing with me here. All of you guys are now on an FBI list. Okay, I hope not. Never sign in sheets. But I want to thank you guys for listening. These are issues. I'm sorry, the non-Muslim people are like, what the hell did I walk into? This guy's wearing a dress. It's a mess. Yeah, it's too late now, girls. I'm sorry. You might as well convert tonight. Like, it's too late. And I want to thank you guys for being here and for being a community. I can say that St. John's is a very special community. I told one of my colleagues that I was coming to St. John's today. She's like, the MSA there is amazing, mashallah. I'm not making that up. I don't lie. Absolutely, you guys are known for being like a family, and if you don't feel it, then I hope that we nourish it. It's a goal that we strive for. It's a community that we seek, it's a community that we are part of. And so I pray that God blesses you. God bless all of us, and show us His mercy. And grant us only the best of this life and the next. And I pray that God rewards you for everything that you do. And that He accepts us into paradise in a place close to Him, without judgment. And I pray that good and great things come from all of you. Jazakumullah khairan. Allah protect you. And please enjoy your dinner. Please stick around after also. I don't know if there's going to be announcements. From what I understand, some of us will be called on to perform as well. If you weren't on the FBI list before after my poem, you're definitely on. So hopefully stick around, enjoy the night, enjoy each other. And everybody, I want everyone to make a commitment. Actually, I told you I was going to, I've been giving khutbahs too long. I ended it 3 times already. I'm going to ask you one more thing. I gave you one homework assignment, right? What was that?
Write something down.
Yeah, write something down. Okay, that's good to start. But write down your goal, right? I want you to do that. You're going to write down how you want to see the world when you leave it. That's one thing. I'm not checking it. I'm not grading it. That's for you. But the second thing I want you to do, and I will know, is I want you to meet someone new tonight. Okay? That's a good goal, right? It's pretty harmless. Brothers, don't use this as an excuse to go flirt with the sisters, though. I'll be watching. Take a moment and meet someone that you don't know. If you see someone by themselves, go introduce yourself to them. That's even better. And I hope that we'll build this community. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.